Hey, you guys, it's me again. Today we're going to talk about sovereign citizens, who they are, who they are not. Let me just start off by telling you there's no such a thing as a sovereign citizen. By simple logic, simple definitions, simple common understanding among the everyday man and woman, a sovereign is a king or an entity or a man or woman that is answerable to nobody but themselves. They have no higher power. So a lot of people joke and say, well, the police must be sovereign because they seem not to answer to nobody. So by that definition, it could fit to many police officers out there, but it could fit to some people too. Now, here's what we learned in the police academy way back yonder, and I believe they still teach this because they they relatively have to. Okay, who, what, where, when, and why. The five W's used to be the four W's. Early '90s, they come along with the five W's. So I had to relearn it to add that extra W, whichever one it was. I forget now. Who's supposed to be sovereign citizens? That's a government label. Okay. Once the government tells you what something is or who somebody is through public education, college, radio, news, etc., then they're creating a label. Why do they create a label? They do it to compartmentalize you. I'm writing notes and looking at notes, make sure I don't hopefully repeat myself here and talk as fast as I can because some people's got the attention of a gnat. Okay. They got to label you to compartmentalize you. It also brings on everything they say. So let's just say in that label it could cover 15 things. They don't really care so long as they get that label stuck on you, then all 15 apply to you. Or people can decide which ones apply to you. But it's negative. Okay. So that's who they are is people that the government, the people and organizations that the government has systematically said, well, this is what a sovereign citizen is. They don't respect no law. They don't think they owe their allegiance to nobody. They're a government in of themselves. Okay. So that's who they say it is. But, that's kind of the kettle calling the pot black, so to speak, because that's how the government operates. But they're putting it on certain people. What are they doing is they're saying that they're doing things unorthodox, in an unorthodox manner. Okay, well, there's nothing illegal about unorthodox, bizarre, strange, or unusual. Welcome to the world. Welcome to the United States. Okay, so where is this going on? They talk about certain hotbed areas and certain organizations that label people. When is this going on? They claim it's going on a lot during elections, and like they called the Tea Party, that the Tea Party was made up of a lot of sovereign citizens. And then people joke again, so you mean there's government and cops in the organization? If the shoe fits, wear it. Why do they do this? Again, it is to label you, compartmentalize you, and put you away. See, this is like the whole United States. But if they can say, this is a certain group of people, good or bad, this is a certain group of people, every time they use that label that the government created, it's going to put in your mind's eye good, bad, or indifferent. Just like if they say people of color. I think white's a color. It used to be in my crayon box, but that's political government labeling for other than white. Okay, so you can be brown, red, yellow, green, any combination. You can even be half white and still be of color. Okay, so that puts a connotation in there. They use these words like homophobic. Well, anything that's a phobia is something that somebody is scared of. So that would literally mean if you called somebody a homophobic, that they would actually be scared of homosexuals. Okay, I don't know anybody. I've never known anybody that was scared of a homosexual. Okay, uh, just saying. If somebody says black, it's treated one way in the mindset. If they say African American, it's another mindset. Mexican American, Native American. Oh, you're just white. You know, they're pitting nationality against color. So white's a color, it's not a nationality. So they're starting to come along with this thing, white American versus African American. I hate hyphenating any man or woman. I hate it because it makes it sound like they're substandard to the Americans. Okay, so a lot of people get this connotation and they're not thinking about what the government's doing. That if you're the white people, you're the real Americans. Everybody else is something other. So you're African American, Italian American, Canadian American, Mexican American. You're just not real American. So I hate the hyphenation. The government ain't stupid. They do this on purpose. And they get people to rally around it for political purposes. Okay? Same thing with sovereign citizens. This sovereign citizens, it just, if you're a citizen, then you have agreed to be a member of society and you gave a portion, of your sovereignty, which is invested in the people individually and collectively. Go back and study your history. But you gave a portion of it to your organic state government that the people set up by a state constitution. All these states gave an even smaller piece that was very exact to the federal union. It's like a union contract, okay? But it doesn't have an expiration date, so it makes it a covenant. So the people made a covenant with their state governments, and their state governments turned around and made a covenant with the federal government. So the people were at the very top, the state was next, and then the federal government was down at the bottom. But the governments tried to flip it around and not deal with states' rights the way they needed to. We fought a civil war over that. Okay? Now, people say, you got one side says, hey, that was on about slavery. The other side says northern aggression. Well, here's the deal. It was over states' rights. There ain't no if, and, or buts. Now, one of the slices of that pie was slavery, period, unequivocally. But they also had whatever laws they wanted to make beyond that. So slavery's a piece of the pizza pie, but it's not all of it. Okay, so we already had a war over states' rights. Okay, what I'm telling you is that today now, the buzzword to shut down people that are constitutionalists, that are people that are exposing government wrongdoing. The way to shut them down and compartmentalize them, square them up, put them away over here, and with public approval, is to label them a sovereign citizen. Okay? Now, the people that they generally aim this towards are people that have a certain type of political viewpoint. They have a certain type of religious viewpoint. They have a certain type of personally, deeply held internal beliefs that come from their life experiences, from their family, from their neighborhood, and they believe a certain way. Okay? So when people try and exercise their God-given or birthright, inheritance rights, whatever you want to call them, they come with you when you're born. Okay? So that's why it says the sovereignty is in the people. We gave a little bit of power to the state government and we're state citizens, and then they turned around and gave a little bit more in cooperation with the other states so that you could travel from state to state freely. You could exchange goods, so there wasn't a border checkpoint at every state checking people in and out like it's going into a foreign country. So it would make travel at ease and say, we're going to be reciprocal. So in this state here, maybe your driver's license says ABC, and over there it says A and B, but not C. But they'll honor this other state their license for so many days, just like this gun reciprocal agreement. Some states will honor these states, and these states will honor these. Okay, something like that. But they said we're going to have a united militia. We're going to have a commerce to make sure that the commerce is fair between the states. States decide their internal matters, but when it crosses state lines and two states are having it out, then we'll be the arbitrator. If a state violates the citizenry inside the state that's in violation of the national constitution, we'll handle that. If it's state issues, your state constitution will handle that, etc. But the people that are true patriots, numerous amounts of true patriots are being compartmentalized and labeled by the government as sovereign citizens. If somebody puts up too many guns, too much food, too much survival gear, they start holding classes on the Constitution, what it says and doesn't say, what it requires you to do and not do. These are all things that could get you labeled that way. If you challenge the police and you're showing that the police are wrong and they're not obeying the law, that's how they label you many times. Or they'll go the other route. If you appear to be super mainstream and they can't latch anything onto you, then they'll go and say you're an anarchist. Somebody that doesn't believe in any law, just believes everybody does their own thing. Look, there's a difference to it, okay? So be aware when people call people sovereign citizens, that's the fastest, quickest way to try and shut them down because they've got the media on their side pushing their propaganda. You know what I mean? I guarantee you, if the media decided some specific type of behavior was not right, it wasn't fair, and they got on an agenda, within probably between 30 and 90 days, they could shape the national conscience to start thinking something was wrong or something was okay. Okay? So I'm telling you, be careful of labels. Okay? There is no such a thing as a sovereign citizen. Period. Most of the people they call sovereign citizens are patriots. But so many people said, hey, can you talk about this? Yeah, I went to police training, numerous times. And they said, well, these people here appear to be sovereign citizens. And I asked them, I said, so how did you decide this? Well, they've got some very strange religious viewpoints. And they're mixing some politics and their religion together. Really? That makes them a sovereign citizen? Did they tell you there's a sovereign citizen? Have they declared themselves? In the census, you have to declare if you're white or black or Native American or whatever you are. And the government says you get to decide who you are. And you get to decide if you're a man or a woman or you're neither. You're an it. And I ain't making fun, but I'm saying I don't know what the terminology is that most people accept if you're not a man or a woman, what you are, or if you got the parts. And I've known only one man, woman, I don't know what you call them, that had all the actual anatomical parts of a man and woman, but he preferred to be called him at a certain time in life and preferred to be called her another time. Well, I wasn't like friends with this person. However, I'm a compassionate human being. I'm a man of God. And I said, what do you think happened? What is your thought process? And he, she, however you want to say it, told me I am a freak of nature. I said, that's your feeling? Yeah. I said, okay, do you assimilate that with being a birth defect? Yes. Okay. Well, do you want to be a man, or do you want to be a woman, or do you like being a little of both, or what? And he or she said, I go up and down and all around. So I said, well, I ain't being funny, but when the census comes around, do you say you're a man or a woman? They're just now thinking about some other category. So I said, did you check yourself as a man or a woman? Well, I usually checked it as both. Okay. And I said, you're half white and half black. So do you check yourself as white or black? I usually check both. I said, wow. So they probably have a great time with your Census Bureau. So since the government says it's self-identification, you get to decide if you're heterosexual, homosexual, bisexual, trisexual, bicycle, okay? Whatever. You get to decide that. But they get to decide if you're a sovereign citizen. By their own definition, a lot of police jurisdictions and a lot of judges would fit that billing that they put on other people. So sometimes they get really bad about projecting. They say you are what they actually are. Just keeping it real. So I've been having people for a year now saying, Chief, please say what this is and talk about, the cops and how they're taught and what they think. Said, well, say if a police officer a lot of times would go out and deal with 3 or 4 people about some incident, and he just goes out there, okay, it's just going to be whatever happens in the deal. Maybe they're complaining on 2 or 3 different homes, or complaining on, hey, these kids over there got some garage band, and that's cool. We don't care for that kind of music, but so long as 8 or 9 o'clock at night, they quieten it down so we can go to sleep. We're cool, but it's 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and they're raging. The police go over there, okay? Now, on the other hand, them exact same people, if that police officer's told, hey, them people calling you around there, they're sovereign citizens, he's going to go with a tainted mindset, thinking these are people who don't believe in the law. That's not true at all. They believe in the law far more than the majority of people. All of them I've come across that they didn't describe themselves as that. Other people described them as that. Okay? So other people were putting that judgment on them, or that label on them, however you want to look at it. But many of them could recite their state constitution. They could recite the national constitution. They could break it down for you. They understood it really well. And they say this law is repugnant to the state constitution, so it's null and void. Supreme Court has issued decisions on that. But that's a threat to the government. And when it threatens the government, then they've got to label you, compartmentalize you, minimize you. Okay? The FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, which has been found in the last 2 years to be off the reservation. all the top end people anyway, not necessarily the field agents, but say the top 10%, the upper management, all the way to the director, the choo-choo train left the tracks and left the reservation. It's gone. Okay. They decided to label sovereign citizens as a domestic terrorist group. Okay. Uh, when people belong to things like ISIS or the Ku Klux Klan or anybody else, they got some kind of association. They go to meetings and they plan and they say this is who we are and this is what we believe. I ain't never heard nobody say, hey, we're sovereign citizens and we have the Sovereign Citizen Association and we'll be meeting up here at so and so's house or at this library or whatever on this day. Nope. A lot of these people are Christian. A lot of these people are patriots. Some are patriots and not Christian. Some are patriots and Christian. But I say a big majority of them are patriots and Christians. Okay? But there are some that have other beliefs and they're patriots. But they're a little cautious not to call them a sovereign citizen because they have some protected religious class. So it gets even more funny. The point is, every time a government official references sovereign citizen, look out. Look out. Okay? Every time they talk about one group being a color like black, brown, red, or yellow, usually white, and then they talk about a nationality, about somebody else, a nationality and a color is two different things. Okay? See, like I consider myself, I'm American. I think everybody that's born here in one of these 50 state republics is an American. That's it. American, period. You're not Canadian American unless you're just born there and you come here and got naturalized. Okay. I would say, wherever you was born. So, I talk to people that are Latino, Hispanic, whatever you want to call them, black people, some from Africa, some from Canada, some from England, but there's a natural belief if somebody's black in America, they're African American. You'd be surprised how many white African Americans they are. Okay? So saying African American could be white or black, predominantly black, but it could be white. So be careful about the labels. Okay? Also, think about name calling. Sometimes government officials are real good about calling people names, negative names. When you've got to go to kindergarten and first grade and call somebody a name, now I know there's a knee-jerk reaction. I'm guilty. You're guilty. Everybody's guilty. That every occasionally somebody will sucker punch you and you'll say, I don't know, you're a doo-doo head. I'm just saying something little kids would say, right? You doo-doo head. Or some other name, okay? That's because you went to your little childish brain, knee-jerk reaction, okay? But anybody that has 30 seconds to think about it and still does that, something's just not really right and mature with that man or woman, okay? I'm saying, look, if you want to attack me, for example, that's crazy. I mean, somebody else is going to carry the message on. It ain't about me. I'm nobody. I'm not that important. Okay? But the message is important because it affects millions of people every day in this country. Okay? So we, as in myself and other auditors, press agents, constitutionalists, people sometimes that they call sovereign citizen, which I don't know none of them, and I'm certainly not. But they want to label some of the people I know or me or other people as this, which is fully false. I believe in my state constitution and I believe in the national constitution. It's a covenant between the people and their servant government. by, for, and between the people. It's our uh, non-expiring agreement. Goes from generation to generation, just keeps going on. That's why we got the 45th president, because it's in succession. It's perpetual. The constitutions are perpetual. They mean what they mean, just like the Bible. I tell people, they say, da 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 da. Well, in these days, sometimes, no, God never changed. God was the same yesterday, today, and forever. Okay? Anything he said was a sin then is a sin now. It didn't like, oh, well, it's later, so he changed his mind. Nope. Gossiping was a sin. It's still a sin. Adultery is still a sin. Okay? Cheating, lying, stealing, homosexuality, bestiality, uh, uh, pedophilia, all these things were sin, and they still are. Okay? So when they wrote the Constitution, they said we got the right of freedom of speech. It's because their speech had been curtailed by their sovereign king. And it was trying to be shut down all the time. So they said, we're going to say we got a right to speak our mind first. First and foremost, our religion and our speak. We will say what we want to say. That's the way it is, period. Number two, we got the right to carry guns to make sure we don't lose the right to speak. We don't have the government come shut us down because we're well armed as the people to protect our free state and the free nation and protect our individual homes. We all are the militia, okay? Read it, learn it, live it. You know, people only know what they see on TV, on some of these cop shows and some of these dramas about people going to jail and going to trial. Well, you might learn some slick, fast, quick ways to do this, that, and the other, but it's not so. And that reminds me, some people, when they go to court, they use unorthodox documents or papers. That doesn't make them bad. It's just that whoever the judge is or the clerk, they're not used to seeing it in that format because they have trained attorneys that go to a school that teach them to do it all exactly a certain way. There's nothing that says it has to be a certain way, but they're, quote, classically trained. It has to be this way and use these words, da 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 da. And then they craft what they want to say in a certain style. Okay? So it gets, quote, acceptable. Tastes good to the judge. Me, you, the next guy that ain't a licensed attorney goes and does it and does the exact same thing, but does it in a different format, uses some different wording that just go, that don't taste right. Must be wrong. Not true. I've known of several judges that said, I know pro se people that I'd rather have in my court than most of the attorneys I deal with. Just saying. And I asked him why. He says because they actually studied the Constitution, they studied the case laws, they've looked at the Federalist Papers, they looked at the founding of the country. They didn't go to a prescribed law school where whatever they teach, they think that's it. That's just like minimum standards for a newbie cop, okay? It's the minimum standards. So these law schools are giving them the minimum standards. It's up to them the day they get out to learn from experienced attorneys, the old heads, where they go back and do their own research, where that is the beginning, not the end, but the beginning of their education, okay? And so these people that are pro se, most of them, before they ever go into a court, they're studying specific parts of the law that deal with them, their business, their family, and they learn this stuff inside out. Where the attorney knows some generalities, they know very specific because nobody knows their case better than they know. Okay? But most people don't actually take the time to go and learn the Constitution, learn what the words mean, learn what the words meant the day they were written, not what they mean today. Okay? If they talked about sending messages by wire, it might have been a teletype, telegraph, telegraph, okay? Now it's a little cell phone. So you have to look at, hey, that was a telegraph, now you got a telephone, now you got a cell phone, but it extrapolates that if they were alive today, it would still have the exact same meaning. So when you look at things, you got to find that it's so likely that the reasonable man, the reasonable man doctrine says my collar was turned out wrong. The reasonable man logic is that 9 out of 10 men, just go anywhere and just pick 10 men. Ding, 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 ding. Okay, you 10 stand here. You tell them the same situation, and 9 out of 10 of them would say that's reasonable or that's unreasonable, logic or illogical, that the common man would understand. That's where the common law come from, commonly understood by the common man. Okay, and at that time that meant just men. Now it means men and women, but that's not an issue. Not for me anyway. I believe we all come from God, but you could have the consensus in a community was that there's certain rights and wrongs. Okay? They got a lot of people that they say, oh, he or she's curious, or they're bizarre, or they're funny turned, or they got a unique way about them. Okay, and, as long as they're not hurting you or nobody else, then they come up with all these paper crimes. What it is, it's just something written on a paper, so it's a crime because it's on a piece of paper. That's just like some people that are constitutionalists say, leave us alone and let us live our lives. You're invading our lives. We went to war with England over this. Let our states do what they do in our state, and our customs and our usage, our traditions. Okay? Quit trying to come down here and boss us around. We done had a civil war over this. Okay? And I'll be doing some more videos in the line of this, and some more audits and etc. And I know this is a long video, and I know I got off track a few times. That doesn't matter. I'm not worried about it. I get the people that say, do some of them hour-long videos, and someone said, hey, try and keep them to 10 minutes. You can't satisfy anybody all the time, let alone most of the people most of the time. So I just have to do what I do, and you like it or you don't. I am who I am. You are who you are. Okay? So thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. God bless you. Have a super great day. And y'all know my email. Send me something at damon4040@yahoo.com, damon4040@yahoo.com. My PayPal's in there. If you like my lectures, you like my work, you like what I do out there, my labors, you like it and want to help, the PayPal's there. If you don't, it's okay. That's just totally up to you. Okay? Thank you. God bless you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.